Good day, everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to another edition of Climate Wednesday. We are happy to have you join us today. In the previous weeks, we've been talking about the ecosystem regeneration is actually our theme for the month. And today we are going to be having another guest who is going to be giving us or shedding more light on restoration and ecosystem generally. So, our topic for today is how we can improve and conserve our terrestrial ecosystem. So I would like you to join me on today's edition while we expect our guests to join us in. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? I can't hear you. Can you hear me? So if you can still hear me, I'm sorry, we have a little bit of a connection problem, but we'll be resolving that shortly. While we wait for our guests to join us again, let's briefly talk about the basics of ecosystem, right? We know that the ecosystem is just the interaction between living beings and basically living organisms, anything that has life and our immediate environment. The interaction between us, the environment, and the cohabitation within a space is what we are referring to as the ecosystem. So today we are going to be talking about, or we're going to be putting our focus basically on the terrestrial ecosystem. Of course, we know that we have other ecosystems that are not terrestrial. We have the aquatic ecosystem, but today we're going to be putting much of our focus on the terrestrial ecosystem, which includes the land, mountains, deserts, and what have you. So, on today's episode, we're going to be asking our host a couple of questions, and he's going to be shedding more light on uh, certain topics. Oh, I think our host is back, so I will just let him have the floor. Can you hear me, Mr. Abeng? Can you hear me now? Good afternoon. Can you hear me? Your mic is muted, Mr. Abeng. Can you unmute, please? If you can hear me, can you unmute your mic? Can you check that your PC or your phone is not on silent? Can you check if your PC is muted as well? I don't have sound. I can only see your video. I don't have sound here from my hand. Our host is still having this challenge of internet. So I'll just take us through what we have. So we really want to understand what the ecosystem restoration is all about. So there's this constant degradation that has been going on with our ecosystem, both aquatic and terrestrial. Every day there's urbanization. The population is getting more and more, exceeding the facilities that we have already, and then because of urbanization. Oh, okay. Our host is here, Mr. Abeng. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear
Great.
me?
I can hear you now. Yes, I can hear you. Great, great, great. Welcome back. Welcome back.
Thank you. So, how are you?
I'm fine. I'm fine. Can you hear me properly? Because I think the internet is.
Yes, I can.
Okay, okay. Please, can you briefly tell us about yourself and what you do? We would like to meet you, and I'm sure the members of the public would like to meet you as well.
Oh, yes. So, first of all, let me appreciate your team for having me on this very important series, Climate Wednesday series. My name is Abeng Loki, and I work with Climate and Sustainable Development Network. I am also the chair grassroots engagement and participation at the Commonwealth level, as Commonwealth Climate Change Network. And also, I am the coordinator of a youth network here in Abuja called the SDG Thursday. So my activities and my engagement revolves around climate and sustainable development here.
Okay. It's nice to meet you. Welcome, Mr. Lucky. So please, because we are a little bit behind time, I would just want us to get into the program quickly. So first, I'll be hoping that you'll be able to answer a few questions for us regarding today's topic, which is protecting and restoring our terrestrial ecosystem in Africa. So my first question will be, what do you understand by the ecosystem restoration? Can you shed more light on that? Can you give us a broad
Okay, yeah, I think system restoration. So when you talk about ecosystem, you're talking about the two components, the biotic and abiotic component that us. You look at your environment, you look at just everything that has to do with the biotic and abiotic factor, the plants, the animals that makes up the ecosystem, human beings, your immediate surrounding makes up our ecosystem. So just in a nutshell, that is what I can give you for ecosystem, yeah, restoration.
If I can hear you clearly,
Your
Mr.
mic
Lucky.
is muted,
Yes.
Rukayat.
Can you hear me now? You can hear me now,
Can you hear
right?
me? You're muted.
Can you hear me now?
You're
Can you
muted.
hear me
Can
now,
you
Mr.
hear
Lucky?
me?
Yes, is unmuted now. Can you hear me?
Okay.
Can you hear
I
me?
can't hear you.
Can you hear me now? So if you can hear me, my next question.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you clearly. Can you hear me?
Can you hear
Can
me?
you hear me clearly? I can hear you. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me? Okay, so Mr. Lucky was giving us his own definition of ecosystem and its restoration, and we will just wait for him to join us again. It's raining, and then I think we have a bit of network issue because of the rain. It's quite unusual here. So, Mr. Lucky, it's good to have you back. I
Thank you
think
very
the
much.
internet connection is a bit unstable, but then we are going to manage it through the show. Okay, so my next question will be what is the main component of the terrestrial ecosystem? And why is the ecosystem important, the terrestrial ecosystem important to us? Did
You've
you get
gone
my
off
question? Should I take it?
again. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Should I take the question again?
I can't hear you.
I can hear you, Mr. Lucky. Do you want me to take the
Can,
question again?
can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay, Mr. Lucky, um, I will just uh, I'll just continue with the program. I hope you'll be able to join me with a stable internet, and let me know when you get back here so that we can take it up from where we stopped. So basically, Mr. Lucky has told us that the ecosystem consists of the biotic and abiotic species, and that it's very important that we need to conserve this species. The next question I was going to ask Mr. Lucky, which is the main component of the terrestrial ecosystem, and why is the terrestrial ecosystem important? So, in my own view, I think the ecosystem is important because it forms the basis of our existence. If we don't have the nature complement how we live our normal lives, then it will be difficult for us as human beings to be able to feed, to be able to get shelter, and to be able to manage or mitigate the climate factors that are affecting us. So, most importantly, the ecosystem is it's nature itself. It's everything that surrounds us, from your trees to the hills to the valleys, the lake. But then, well, since we're focusing on terrestrial ecosystem, we're talking about land, we're talking about deserts, we're talking about the hills, the mountains, the trees, right? So, for instance, if as a human being, we need shelter, we need food. How do we get shelter? How do we get food? We get food from growing crops, which later translate into trees, and then we can cut down trees to even build up, make our constructions for buildings, right? Also, the sometimes you hear of desert encroachment. That's because people go to the desert and then they go take out a lot of sand from the desert. All of those things have their own implications. So as humans, we need to make our own individual effort to make sure that we restore this the ecosystem, which is what is basically forming our existence. So while we still wait for Mr. Lucky to join us, we're also going to be looking at what we can do with the increasing urbanization in Africa. We all know that Africa is known for is is massive population. So with the massive population, we still need to be able to fend for the number of people that are inhabited in the continent. So how do we do this? These same people need to have shelter. They need to have food. But the consequence on the environment is that we consistently degrade the environment, we consistently deplete our natural resources. So now we're going to be looking at how can we do this in a way that it doesn't it doesn't pose a lot of danger to the environment. Of course, we're already seeing the consequences of depleted environment like flooding. We have wildfires in the Amazons. Those are the things that are like consequences of our man-made actions while we are trying to build while we are trying to urbanize, trying to accommodate the population that we're churning out year on year in Africa. So then these are things that we're looking at. We're trying to mitigate this and strike a balance between conserving our nature at the same time still benefiting from nature as well. So these are the things that we want our guests to help us shed more light on. We're also going to be looking at the sustainable approaches that we can apply to make sure that we restrict habitat loss and then land degradation in Africa. Then also we are also going to look at the issues of tree planting. What should we do about tree planting? Is tree planting an absolute solution to the problem of deforestation? Do we need to do other things aside tree planting? And then we'll also look at the efforts of the government and the efforts of people, the stakeholders in the grassroots. What can they do, or how can they um, channel their strength to make sure that they are conserving their own immediate environment? So these are the topics that we're going to be looking at today. We're still waiting for our host to, our guest rather, to join us, and so he can help us put more, give more insights on these areas of concern. Obviously, we know that our natural landscape is it's not what it's supposed to be as of today, because people in the effort to have a shelter above their head, they try to shift the habitat, the natural habitat of some species or some organisms far away from where it's supposed to be. For instance, tree felling. People fall down trees just to because they want to see the ocean view. They go to the coastal areas and fall down trees, destroy mangroves just so that they can build houses close to that. And then because people are trying to um separate the what's it called now? They're trying to urbanize and trying to separate their lifestyle from the regular one. Everybody is trying to build a better lifestyle. So people want to see the ocean view. They want to destroy the mangroves and cut down trees so that they can have their houses at some very strategic locations. Companies are coming up. People are going into businesses. They need offices. People are getting the population of people are getting higher and higher by the day, because if we look at how the growth of population, look at the increase and the percentage, we will see that there's a huge increase in the population from the last decade to this decade. Even as regards the natural disasters of flooding, wildfires, we still have more population of people than what we used to have in the past. So first, what I would like to pinpoint here is that the most important thing is that some of us think that, oh, because I will always go out and get fresh air, I'll always go out and go to the market and get food that I'll eat. But all of these things come from a source, right? How do we ensure that we measure the carbon that goes the carbon emission? How do we ensure that the air that we even breathe in on a daily basis are not poisonous, they don't do any damage to our lungs, or the extent of carbon that is being emitted into the air is healthy for human consumption? These are the things that people take for granted, right? So for instance, people just know that they want to build companies, they want to manufacture things. Nobody talks about recycling. Nobody talks about regeneration of trees, right? So these are the kind of things that we should do as human being. There's the least you can do is try to plant a tree when you can. Try to grow your own garden around the house, so that you would be encouraging the ecosystem to breed in a more sustainable environment. So, for instance, if we all say that, oh, we are always going to have to go to get the processed food, right? So at the end of the day, we know what you know what preservation does when it goes into your cans and your bottles. Everybody is supposed to at least build build an attitude of recreation, build an attitude of regeneration, right? Try and grow trees, try and grow your plants, try and grow your gardens as well. When you're talking about the ecosystem regeneration, you know that you have to you have to take care of your immediate environment. So when we're talking about tree planting, we have some areas where you can do like regular tree planting. There are spaces, and then all you need to do, it doesn't even need so much attention. You can just do like a watering once a while, and then you're good to go. What tree planting does for us is it serves as a windbreak, and then you can also still use it for source of wood and source of construction, right? So it's also a source of livelihood for people that live in the rural areas, so that they can get produce from these trees, and they can put it into the market to sell. It also helps the economy, and it also helps stabilization of people and for them to be able to adapt to their environment. So with increasing urbanization in Africa, it's I think the effort of the government will be most needed to make sure that people have decent accommodation without destroying the regular floras and faunas in the natural habitat. So I know that there are strategic ways to do urban planning, and then this goes through government, and as individuals we might not be able to do this on our own without the guidance of the government in bringing out this planning that would ensure that we are not destroying any landscape, or we're not destroying any habitat. Also, we can also talk about the fact that we can also talk about the fact that we can also talk about the fact that we know that the source of our livelihood is from the environment. We've talked about planting. Also, let's look at mining. If you don't give a control to mining, you would exploit the ecosystem beyond restoration. So we need to be conversant with the restoration of the ecosystem and ensure that these these actions are being controlled by the government, and then there's a proper orientation given to people in the rural areas so that they would know how to use or properly utilize their natural resources. So, well, unfortunately, I don't think our guest will be able to join us because I think he has a major internet issue. But then I think we're able to pick one or two things from today's review, and we can also do a recap of this topic in our subsequent sessions. So, I'd like to thank everybody for the attention, and we look forward to seeing you on our next episode of Climate Wednesday. Thank you very much.